Alright, let's talk about New Jersey. Yes, New Jersey. The place famous for Springsteen, questionable tans, and a political scene that often makes a landfill look like a botanical garden. Next week, on June 10th, 2025, they're having a gubernatorial primary, and believe it or not, the whole country should probably be paying a little attention. This isn't just about who gets to run the state with the most diners per capita, it's a genuine test. Can a state so famously, almost comically entangled in political machines actually untangle itself? With current Governor Phil Murphy term limited, and the historical rarity of one party holding the top spot for 3 straight terms, not since 1961 folks, the stakes are even higher. It's a potential bellwether, a political science experiment with actual live politicians. Now, when we say New Jersey has a history of corruption, we're not just whistling Dixie or, whatever the New Jersey equivalent of whistling Dixie is, probably complaining about traffic on the Parkway. We're talking about a rich, deep, well-documented tapestry of shadiness. Cast your minds back to the 1970s and the glorious Abscom scandal. Abscom. FBI agents dressed up as Arab sheiks waving cash around and politicians, including a U.S. senator from New Jersey, practically tripping over themselves to take it. It was so brazen, so unapologetically corrupt, it really set the gold standard, or perhaps the gold-plated handcuff standard, for generations of New Jersey political scandals to come. It was a masterclass in how not to govern, and it put New Jersey on the map for all the wrong reasons. And the hits just kept on coming. Remember Bridgegate? Yes, the scandal where officials under former Governor Chris Christie decided the best way to exact political revenge was to cause massive traffic jams on the George Washington Bridge. Because nothing says public service like weaponizing rush hour for petty retribution. It was a plot so diabolical, so cartoonishly evil, you half expected a villain to be twirling his mustache. Then there was the Bidrig III investigation back in 2009, a sprawling affair that ensnared no fewer than 44 individuals, including mayors and state assembly members. It was a veritable festival of corruption, proving that this wasn't just a few bad apples, but potentially a very rotten orchard indeed. Fast forward to more recent times, lest you think they've cleaned up their act. Just last year, post-July 2023, former U.S. Senator Bob Menendez was convicted on bribery and influence peddling charges. A sitting U.S. Senator? Again. It's almost a tradition at this point, like saltwater taffy, or arguing about whether it's called Taylor ham or pork roll. The people of New Jersey are certainly not naive. A 2023 Fairleigh Dickinson University poll found that a whopping 80% of residents believe their politicians are at least a little corrupt. Even Tucker Carlson, in a rare moment of cross-aisle agreement, described New Jersey as one of the most corrupt states in the country. When says it, you know the situation is dire. So, amidst this backdrop of what sounds less like a state and more like a long-running crime drama, we have the upcoming primary. And a central theme emerging in this election cycle is the concept of the uniparty. Now, what on earth is a uniparty, you ask? It sounds like a particularly dull gathering where everyone wears beige and agrees on the superiority of lukewarm tap water. But in political terms, it's the rather cynical, though some would say realistic idea that the establishment wings of both the Democratic and Republican parties are not so much bitter rivals as they are colleagues. Colleagues in the grand project of maintaining the status quo, a status quo that, coincidentally, benefits them quite nicely. How does this alleged uniparty operate? Well, picture this, a shadowy ballet of super PACs, those wonderful vehicles for anonymous big money, twirling in tandem with carefully choreographed insider endorsements. Add a dash of secretive backroom deals where the real decisions are made far from the prying eyes of the public. It's a system, critics argue, designed to ensure that only candidates who are safe-meaning, unlikely to upset the apple cart or challenge the established order, make it through the gauntlet. They might wear different colored jerseys, red or blue, but the game they're playing is often for the same team. Team power retention. It's less about ideology and more about access and influence, a closed loop that's very hard to break into. This intricate dance of mutual understanding and shared interest naturally works to maintain the current state of affairs. Consider the campaign spending. We're seeing absolutely staggering amounts of money pouring into these races. For instance, by May 2025, the Democratic primary alone had seen an unprecedented $70 million in super PAC money. $70 million. That's not just pocket change, that's the kind of money that can drown out any dissenting voice, any grassroots movement that doesn't have a friendly billionaire on speed dial. It creates an environment where the loudest voices are often the best funded, not necessarily the ones with the best ideas or the most genuine connection to the electorate. The system, in essence, feeds itself. However, there's a potential wrinkle in this well-oiled machine this year in New Jersey. For the first time in a gubernatorial and legislative primary, the state will not be using the county line ballot system. This system, for the uninitiated, was a uniquely New Jersey quirk that gave candidates endorsed by county party organizations prime placement on the ballot, a huge advantage. Its abolition theoretically leveled the playing field, making it a bit harder for the party establishment to simply anoint their chosen successors. But let's not get too carried away. The Uniparty, if it indeed exists as described, has many arrows in its quiver, many ways to ensure its continued relevance. This is just one small, albeit significant battle. Into this fascinating mess steps Bill Spadea. You might know him as a former radio host for NJ 101.5, a gig he left in January 2025 specifically to focus on this gubernatorial run. He's also a Marine, and he's very much positioning himself as the quintessential America First outsider. His main target? What he calls the Trenton establishment. Spadea is making a point of largely shunning the traditional county convention processes, those smoke-filled rooms, or perhaps now Zoom-filled rooms, where insiders often hash things out. He argues quite loudly that these conventions are rigged, designed to perpetuate the very system he wants to dismantle. This approach is a direct affront to old guard politics. Spadea's message is clear and unapologetic. He's here to clean house. He wants to take a sledgehammer to the established order in Trenton and combat the corruption that, as we've discussed, seems to be a permanent fixture of the state's political landscape. He's also making no secret of his admiration for Donald Trump, explicitly pledging to work with him. A March 2025 ad from a group called @LegacyLibertyNJ on X, formerly Twitter, framed Spadea precisely as this voice against the Trenton establishment, ready to team up with Trump. This strategy aims to galvanize a base of voters who feel left behind or ignored by mainstream politicians, tapping into a potent vein of populist anger. When it comes to funding his campaign, Spadea is leaning into the outsider narrative. His campaign has drawn scrutiny for tapping small-dollar donors. His critics are naturally raising questions about this. However, his supporters paint this as a badge of honor, a sign of genuine grassroots enthusiasm, and a deliberate rejection of corporate PAC money and the influence of big money donors. It's the classic David versus Goliath story, the people-powered candidate taking on the moneyed interests. This fundraising strategy is as much a part of his messaging as any policy proposal, reinforcing his image as an independent fighter. Of course, wanting to be a wrench in the machine and actually one are two different things. Spadea faces a significant uphill battle. Insider polls bought by PAC money of his opponent Jack Ciattarelli made him out to seem like he was behind when the enthusiasm from his supporters prove otherwise. Ciattarelli is a former state assemblyman, a more traditional political figure, but a man who's potentially part of the Uniparty New Jersey no longer wants. Spadea needs to consolidate that anti-establishment, drain the swamp energy if he hopes to overcome these formidable obstacles. So why should anyone outside of New Jersey, say, your lovely Aunt Mildred in Boise, Idaho, who's probably more concerned with potato futures, care about this gubernatorial primary? Well, Aunt Mildred, pull up a chair. This election, believe it or not, has national significance. It's serving as a referendum on whether these deeply entrenched political machines, the kind that seem to thrive in places like New Jersey, can actually be dismantled. If an outsider candidate, whether it's Spadea on the Republican side or a genuine reform-minded Democrat, manages to make serious inroads or even pull off an upset, it could send a powerful message across the country. It could inspire similar challenges to entrenched power elsewhere. Furthermore, this New Jersey primary is one of the very first major elections to take place after the 2024 presidential race. Think of it as an early political EKG for the nation. It will provide some of the first concrete data points on the public mood. Are voters still craving disruption, or are they yearning for something a bit more, shall we say, boring and stable? How are they feeling about the direction of the country, and particularly, how are they reacting in the context of a potential second Trump administration, or its immediate aftermath? Pundits will be dissecting these results for weeks, looking for clues about what to expect in the 2026 midterm elections. New Jersey, for a brief moment, becomes America's political crystal ball. Beyond the horse race and the crystal ball gazing, the fundamental issues at play in New Jersey are, frankly, universal. The fight against corruption? That's not just a Garden State problem. The overwhelming influence of big money in politics, concerns about transparency and accountability, the nagging feeling that the system is rigged in favor of the powerful and connected, these are anxieties that resonate deeply in communities all across America, from the Jersey Shore to the plains of Kansas. The way New Jersey voters grapple with these challenges, the choices they make, and the reforms they demand or don't, can offer valuable lessons, both positive and cautionary, for the rest of the nation. Ultimately, this election on June 10th is about more than just choosing the next governor of New Jersey. It's about whether the seemingly endless cycle of corruption can be broken. It's a test of whether the concept of a uniparty, with its cozy arrangements and self-preservation instincts, can be effectively challenged by forces from outside the traditional power structures. And perhaps most importantly, it's about whether ordinary citizens feel they can still make a difference, whether they can reclaim their political system from entrenched interests. So yes, Aunt Mildred, what happens in New Jersey next week might just matter to you, to all of us, a whole lot more than you think. Pass the potato salad, will you?